Colonel Rob Maness has a lifelong record of providing dedicated service to this nation. Having worked his way up from the enlisted ranks to full colonel, he served our country for more than 32 years. He has served as a bomber squadron commander, bomb disposal technician, Joint Chiefs of Staff Operations Officer, assisted the National Security Team with the campaign plan for the global war on terrorism. He authored the first theater nuclear war plan and served as the Vice Commander of America's largest airborne intelligence wing. Colonel Rob Maness is a true American hero. This is Rob Maness Live.
All right, hey, Eddie Gallagher here, co-founder and board member of the Pipe Hitter Foundation.
And I'm Andrea Gallagher. I'm the Pipe Hitter Foundation president and co-founder with my husband, Eddie.
And the Pipe Hitter Foundation is a 501c3 that supports our active duty military, law enforcement, and first responders. If they're being unjustly accused for doing their job, we step in and we provide emergency relief aid to their families during that difficult time. We also raise money for their legal defense, and then we will advocate for those individuals as well if they ask for it.
Our friends over at the Pipe Hitter Foundation have sided with Penny, and they're working hard to help him in his defense. If you didn't know, the Foundation's mission is founded in a commitment to defending the rights and freedoms of our men and women in uniform.
The reason we started the Pipe Hitter Foundation is because of what happened to me and my family back in 2009.
Well, the Pipe Hitter Foundation is supporting a Navy sailor who's been charged for saving his friend's life. Welcome to Whistleblower Wednesday, and the Rob Maness Show is live on Worldview Tube and our X Spaces simulcast. Well, the Pipe Hitter Foundation, as you just heard there from Chief Gallagher, is committed to defending the rights and freedoms of our men and women in uniform. These are the same rights and freedoms they risk their lives to uphold. They provide immediate support and ongoing support to service members, first responders, and their families by raising legal defense funds and paying associated expenses to the uniformed personnel who need it. Well, U.S. Navy sailor Harrison Tace is being supported by the foundation, and Tace is a 21-year-old sailor who enlisted in the Navy after high school, and while playing a game of pool on base, a fight broke out, and Harrison was stabbed 8 times. He was life-flighted to a trauma center and required surgery to remove a knife from his skull. At one point, the Navy even thought he had died from his injuries. And before retiring, Foundation Director Chief Eddie Gallagher spent over 20 years serving in the U.S. Navy. 5 of those years he spent with the Marines, where he deployed as a medic and scout sniper. The last 15 he spent serving with the Special Operations community, where he deployed numerous times with SEAL Team 1 and Team 7. Chief Gallagher, welcome to the Rob Maness Show for the first time.
I appreciate it, Rob. Thank you for having me on.
Oh, thank you for coming on. And let me just start out, Chief, with saying to you, now that I have the opportunity to do it personally, thank you and your wife and your family and all of the professionals that you have on your board for the Pipe Hitter Foundation. I have interviewed several of the folks, family members of men and women that you guys have supported and are supporting through the years, and I can't tell you how important it is, man, that this work be done and be continued. So, folks, if you want to help, go to the pipehitterfoundation.org. I think it is. That's what it is, and make a donation, because these folks are doing great work. First question: what's driving these prosecutions of military personnel and first responders? Like I said, this is not the first interview we've done with folks from your foundation or that we've heard about.
Well, there's a lot of different factors that drive these prosecutors to, let's say, do the wrong thing, the unethical thing. A lot of it comes down to politics, pushing a certain agenda or narrative. But then again, like in this Harrison Tace case, I don't believe that there's anything like that. I just think this is complete incompetence by the Navy and by the Navy JAGs. They have not handled this case properly from the get-go. As you had described earlier, Harrison was playing pool with a couple of his buddies. Or not even his buddies, just 2 other sailors. And the 2 sailors are the ones who got into a disagreement about a bet that had happened during a pool game. And one of the sailors, instead of paying up the bet, decided to pull a knife and try and bully his way out of the pool hall. Harrison stepped in to de-escalate the situation and ended up getting stabbed 8 times and a knife shoved through his head to where the blade was actually coming through his mouth. He was life flighted, nearly died, had to have 3 blood transfusions, barely made it, and the Navy decided to go after him because they invited probably one of the most, I don't even know how to describe it, clown show investigative bodies, which is NCIS, came in and they charged Harrison with attempted robbery, which he wasn't even involved in the bet. And they also charged him for assault because he had the sailor who was stabbing him in a headlock while he was getting stabbed. And then they threw a blanket statement, which is disorderly conduct, which is they throw on every military member if you get in trouble. But the problem is, I mean, none of these charges add up. He attempted robbery. He wasn't involved in the bet. And the assault charge is just asinine. He was trying to defend himself. But he's going to go to court martial here in a couple months, and he is at risk of getting out on a bad conduct discharge, which means he could lose all of his benefits. That will follow him for the rest of his life, and he could possibly have to pay back his $25,000 sign-on bonus.
Yeah. How is he medically now? Is he recovered or still having some difficulty in that area?
He's recovering right now. He can still barely lift his right arm. I know his parents are with him. Our foundation has reached out to the parents and talked to them all. And I mean, they are just, all American people. They have a positive attitude, and they are the ones who are willing to fight to do what is right against the Navy. We got in contact with them, and it was their choice that they wanted to stand up and fight against these allegations, and that is why our foundation was formed and why we stepped in. We love to get behind people who are willing to stand up and do the right thing, that have a backbone and fight for justice. So we are supporting the family right now, and hopefully, the Navy will come to its senses before they go to court martial and drop these asinine charges.
Yeah. Do you guys provide an attorney, or do you go out and seek one, or how does that work? And does he have one, I guess?
So the Pipehitter Foundation does not provide attorneys. We just feel like that becomes a little bit too incestuous. But we do have a list of vetted attorneys that we trust, that if the individuals that we're helping do not have legal representation, or they're not happy with the legal representation that they have, we give them that list and they can choose, if need be, to pick an attorney. The Harrison does have a great lawyer, Jay Sullivan, who is representing him right now. And just to give you a little insight, the Navy has to provide you with legal representation, which is a JAG. They provided him with a female JAG who had never done a case before. And the first thing she did when she came in was, we have to take a plea deal. And that's the overall systemic problem here, is these JAGs that are supposed to be defending the women, men and women in the military, are all trained to take plea deals and look for the easy way out, instead of actually having to fight for their client.
Yeah, in the Air Force, we call it the Area Defense Council, and it's usually the newest attorneys that have just gotten qualified that become the Area Defense Councils, which stacks the deck with the prosecutor side.
Yes.
And speaking of the military concept, Chief, the commanders, I've had court-martial authority as a wing commander in the Air Force, and the commanders are supposed to be the line of defense at the sanity line. Does this make sense? And when I read the story of Harrison's incident, none of this makes any sense. I mean, there was not even any cash involved for what I was reading about it. It was going to be, the bet payoff was going to be done via Venmo. So how could, let's just take the attempted robbery charge. How could they charge this guy with attempted robbery when there's nothing he could have stolen?
Exactly. And I'll put the blame on that is on NCIS. They come in, do their shoddy investigative work, and they're always looking to make a case because that's how they get promoted. So I'm sure NCIS decided to, slap these charges on them. And yes, they do have to go through the command. And unfortunately, there is a theme with the command, especially in the Navy, that they always trust NCIS and they take their side and everything. And usually the commanders don't give any pushback once the NCIS is involved and gives their findings for the investigation. We've seen that time and time again. And, that's enough, we can have another discussion about the overall problem with the leadership in our military right now, not having a backbone or not being able to critically think on their own. But, that is also another factor in how these asinine charges get pulled through.
Yeah, absolutely. So NCIS is driving this, the charges, and the JAG's just kind of saying, well, we got to go with what they recommend. Is that right?
That's what it seems to be. Yeah. NCIS comes up with the charges, and then the JAGs don't seem to want to do the work that they signed up to do for the military, which is actually be a lawyer and defend your client. They just want to go right to a plea deal because they don't want to take on a case. And you have to think of this as well. Inside the UCMJ, it's all very incestuous. So the JAG that you're given to represent you also works for the prosecutor, who also works for the judge. We saw this in my case, and of course many other cases that, once the prosecution is pulling possibly illegal things or just doing things that are unethical or unmoral, the defendant or the JAG that's defending the client is scared to call them out on it because that prosecutor could be writing his eval down the line. And that just goes all the way around. So that's another problem within the UCMJ. I think it is a broken system that needs to be reformed, which is also one of our pillars of the Pipe Hitter Foundation. We are constantly fighting for reform again in the UCMJ so that the men and women who sign up to serve this country, sign up to give their lives for this country, are treated fairly and are given the constitutional rights that they deserve.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. The UCMJ itself is pretty darn good when you compare it to civil law, civilian law in the country, but it's the operation of it that I've seen. I've had the same issues with it. Even though by the rules, the defense counsel doesn't work directly for the judge or the JAG at the time of the trial, they're going to eventually, because the numbers are pretty small. There's not a whole lot of lawyers in the different branches of the military. And at some point, you're going to either work with or for one of these people that are involved in this. So it's a very, very corrupt system that needs to be addressed, man. It really does. Question, in this case with Harrison, the other two individuals are Navy sailors. Did I get that correctly?
Yes, they are. Yep. And the attacker who stabbed Harrison 8 times, immediately after, he thought he had killed Harrison and was screaming, "I am not a murderer," when they came and arrested everybody. But the assailant who had attacked him is roaming free, back at work on the base, while Harrison is laying in bed, still recovering from his wounds and facing a court-martial. I'm sure they're all facing a court-martial right now, but to even have the assailant in the same area as the person he attacked is also pretty crazy, which again just leads to the incompetence of NCIS and the leadership who's overseeing this whole case.
Yeah, pretrial confinement's pretty serious business. I know you were in pretrial confinement for a very long time by the standards that I was used to when I was a commander and was operating yes. the system. And you weren't a threat to anybody. This guy is actually a threat. He cut the guy up 8 times, and folks, you'll see when we come back from this break here, Chief. We'll show the video that you and your wife did that's on Instagram about this story, and you'll see some pictures of Harrison in this video. Pay close attention. The man was destroyed with this knife. He had a knife sticking out of his head when he got to the hospital, for goodness sake. And this guy that did it is roaming free. It's unbelievable. Well, I'm Rob Maness, and it's Whistleblower Wednesday. We're talking to the director of the Pipe Hitter Foundation, retired Navy Chief Eddie Gallagher, about Harrison Tace. In this case, we really got to get it out there to the public so that they can get the help they need, and we keep Harrison from being found guilty in this court-martial that may be coming up, or hopefully get this case dismissed. We'll be right back.
Hi, everyone. Eddie and Andrea Gallagher here to share with you the latest update on the Harrison Tace case and campaign that we've started through Pipe Hitter Foundation. I'm going to quickly run through the charges that he is facing, and then Eddie will give you more context on how this is possible. So he is facing an Article 80 for attempted robbery, Article 128 for assault, and then an Article 134 for disorderly conduct. And he will be facing a UCMJ court-martial roughly August or September of this year.
Hey, so I'll keep this brief on the incident. Harrison was playing pool with two other sailors. The two other sailors got into an argument about an unpaid debt that did not even include Harrison. They got into a fist fight. Harrison stepped in to de-escalate the situation. One of the sailors had a knife and stabbed Harrison 8 times, leaving the knife lodged in his head. Harrison had to be life flighted. He had 3 blood transfusions and 3 major surgeries to save his life. Mm-hmm. The Navy decided to throw these charges on him: robbery, which Harrison wasn't even involved in the bet, and then assault for trying to defend himself against a person stabbing him. This is how ludicrous this case is. This is why the Pipe Hitter Foundation is supporting him and his family, and we will see justice.
Yes. So we want to ask you guys, continue to check the website. We have updated all the information, all the charge sheet. We have legal advisors that are assisting with this case. We are looking to raise $50,000 before the trial date of August or September of this year. We ask you for your support. Please visit pipehitterfoundation.org, and thank you so much.
God bless.
Welcome back to the Rob Maness Show on Worldview Tube and our X Spaces simulcast, and we're live today on Whistleblower Wednesday with the director of the Pipe Hitter Foundation that you just heard in that video, retired U.S. Navy Chief Petty Officer Eddie Gallagher, former Navy SEAL, who's he and his family have gone through this type of despicable prosecution process before. And Chief, welcome back. I wanted to show that video because it helps to tell the story over and over again. And, you know, we need to get this word out. We need to get donations to you guys so that you can take care of this young man. Tell the audience about Harrison Tace. You know, I mentioned that he's a high school graduate, but what kind of person is he like? He seems like a really sharp sailor, looks good in his uniform, obviously seems like he's done well in his military service.
Exactly. You know, you're always told not to judge a book by its cover, but you can definitely judge Harrison by the way, the pictures that you have seen of him and just how he portrays himself. You know, our foundation has talked to the family and, you know, to Harrison, and, you know, we have the legal representation who's talking to Harrison. He is just an all-American kid that just wanted to sign up to serve his country in the United States Navy, get to travel while serving his country. I mean, you really couldn't find a better individual who raised his right hand and decided to sign up. And, you know, to have this happen to him is unfortunate. You know, there's things in life that we can't control, and I think this situation that he found himself in, is definitely, like I said, unfortunate. But the way that he is being treated afterwards is, what is wrong here, and that is why our foundation exists, is for cases just like these. But his family, they're all in good spirits. They are all willing to fight for what is right, and I know that after our foundation has talked to them, that they will stop at nothing until justice is served.
That's good news. That's good to hear. It's good to get that confirmation, because you're right. You can't tell by a picture, but in the military, you can kind of tell a little bit of somebody's character, the way they present themselves, especially in uniform and everything. I'm glad the parents are really on board, and it sounds like everybody's staying positive. And that's one of the things you guys do, isn't it? Is provide support to the family and the individual as they're going through this process.
Yeah, correct. That is actually one of the main things that I'm extremely proud of that we're able to do. Is not only do we provide funds for their legal defense, we provide emergency relief aid to the families as they're going through this stressful time, and we advocate. But we are also able to talk to these families as they're going through this stressful time, because myself and my wife both know how it feels to have the weight of the government come down on you, and to be sort of persecuted in the media, and also, unfortunately, through your command, if the leadership decides to go that route. And it can be a very stressful time. So we are able to sit down with some of these individuals, maybe their parents or their spouses, and sort of walk them through how we got through our situation, give them advice, and just, we also have on our board advisors who all have been through certain situations like this, who are open to talk to those individuals as well and sort of guide them through this process.
Yeah, one of the questions I did want to ask you, since I've got you now, and I've interviewed a lot of folks that you guys have supported over the last couple of years, is the media issue. Do you all help with countering any media attack message like what you went through? Because it was pretty extensive, man. I mean, it's been 5 years now, and it's seared in my memory, and I'm just a casual observer out here.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
with that.
Yeah, my case was a pretty extreme case for sure. That got publicized worldwide. But my wife and my brother both found a road to defeat the media and the government when they're trying to push an agenda or narrative. They got the right people in Congress who are willing to do the right thing, which unfortunately is few and far between, but also the right media outlets who actually put out the truth and don't have a narrative or don't have an agenda. And then, that's where also social media comes into play too. I'm not a big fan of social media. I think it has pros and cons, but this is one of the pros that we use, is to actually put out the truth and the facts about what's going on with a certain individual that we're helping. Because a lot of the times the media will leave out the context. They'll formulate certain videos or certain statements to their favor to make this individual look guilty or demonize him in some way. So yes, we do combat that and actually put out all the context of what is actually going on, who these individuals are. We humanize them because that's also one thing the media does not do. They demonize instead of humanize. So we are able to humanize these individuals and just put the truth out there about who these people are and why they did what they did when doing their job.
Yeah. In your case, there were a couple of things that I don't know if people really know about. The prosecutor sent spyware into your defense team, into your email box, so they could collect and surveil you guys' communications. And somebody, I can't remember whether it was the NCIS or not, was planting negative stories planting negative stories in the media.
Correct.
Do you see that often with these cases, especially on the military side? Because you guys support first responders and too, law enforcement, those kind of folks too on the outside.
We definitely see it more on the law enforcement side when they're targeting a law enforcement officer for doing his job. That is, especially in the past couple of years, with the whole defund the police movement and just the attack on law enforcement in general. The media loves to jump on that. With the military, it depends, so this Harrison Tace case, I don't think anybody would even know this was going on. This is something that they would just try and sweep under the rug. But we do see it in military cases where if that person decides to stand up and fight for what is right and actually defend themselves, and it is going against the narrative, whatever the Navy, Army, Air Force, or whatever branch is prosecuting them, a lot of the times that branch, or especially in the Navy, will use the media. They will use that to their advantage. I mean, they did it in my case. I've seen them do it in multiple other cases, to where they will leak certain information to the media, and not all of it, just to demonize the person that they're trying to prosecute. They will also, like you just pointed out earlier, lie, cheat, and steal to try and get a win. And it's an unfortunate thing, but I think it's just a byproduct of our society nowadays. A lot of it is trial by media, which is one thing that we have to combat all the time. Media is a 24 to 48 hour loop until it goes on to the next thing. So we really do our due diligence to make sure that we keep the client that we're representing, or the person that we're representing, at the forefront, and keep constantly putting out the truth.
Yeah, that's why my show exists, and why the network that I'm on, Worldview Tube, exists, is to get the facts out and the truth out, because there's such dishonesty across our whole system. Well, Eddie, I have a live audience, and I do let them ask questions on occasionally. I've got a hand up in the audience. I'll go over to my host, who is named Shell, over in the X Spaces simulcast audience, and take the question. Go ahead, Shell.
Mr. Parker, go ahead, sir. Ask your question.
Thank you very much, everybody. I'm Parker Fields. I'm from here in Battle Creek, Michigan. My question is, how often are polygraphs used in these cases? I've heard Dan Bongino saying that for him, in order to get into Secret Service, they're required to take a polygraph test prior to their induction into the Secret Service. And also, do you feel that this might be something that might be able to help with these cases, and maybe also these cases against the president and things that are going on in our government today?
I don't have a study on how often polygraphs are used in these cases, especially when it comes to the UCMJ. I can tell you this from my experience. I did take a polygraph because I was going into a 3-letter agency when I was exiting the military. I was already about 90% of the way through with my interview, so the polygraph had already been conducted. And during that polygraph, they had asked me if I had ever committed any war crimes, and I said no, and it came out as fact, true. We asked to use that polygraph during my trial and was denied. And this was exactly what was said by the judge and by the prosecution. And this is as asinine as it sounds. They said because the polygraphs said that I was innocent, or that what I was stating was fact, it could not be used. But if it did say that I was lying, then they could use it in the case. So again, we're talking about a broken system, and that they make up the rules as they go. Do I think polygraphs should be used? That is a question I don't think I could answer, because I know polygraphs aren't 100% accurate all the time. So when you're dealing with a case, especially when somebody is facing life in prison, or it's going to affect them the rest of their lives, that is a big decision to make. It could be a big risk. So I'm unsure of using the polygraphs in these kinds of cases, and especially when dealing with what happened with Trump. I mean, honestly, I don't really think we need a polygraph at this point to see what just happened with him was just a political front, and to stall him from being able to run. But that's my opinion.
Absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely right. I'll just weigh in here from a commander's perspective, operating the UCMJ. We would occasionally use a polygraph to try to clear somebody, to clear their alibi, confirm their alibi, that kind of thing. But I don't think it's ever allowed to be admissible as evidence. one way or the other. I would be very surprised if a judge let that in, even if you had come out as lying. So it'd be interesting to see that. But on the security side, yeah, a lot of us have gone through the polygraph system and continue to do that. I wonder if some of these NCIS guys could pass a polygraph. That would be a question that came to my mind as you were talking. You know, well, we got another break coming. Yeah, I'd like to see it too. We got another break coming up, Chief.
I just want to say thank you, gentlemen, for your service for our country.
You're welcome. Thank you. I appreciate the question, my friend from Battle Creek, Michigan. But we got to take a break. When we come back, though, I'm going to show a little clip that was way before Chief Gallagher's case in 2010 about the, I think it's the Blackwater 4. And I just wanted to ask the Chief about Americans being charged with war crimes based on combat actions and those kind of things. So we come back to the Rob Maness Show, and we're talking about Harrison Tace and what he's facing here with this potential court-martial, completely unnecessarily, in Rob Maness's opinion, having talked to the Chief now and studied up on this case. So we'll be right back on Worldview Tube and X Spaces simulcast.
Hello, I'm Brandon House. I want to thank you for all your support at wvwfoundation.com that helps make possible pushing out 24/7 content for free. Without your support, we'd have to put it all behind a paywall. But thanks to you and your support through our foundation, we're able to push it out for free as a broadcast service and broadcast ministry of WVW Foundation. Please consider going there and setting up an automatic monthly contribution, or go there and make an occasional contribution. If you prefer to support us through the mail, you'll find our mailing address there at wvwfoundation.com. You can also call and make your contribution over the phone by calling 901-825-0652. That's 901-825-0652. Again, all these details are available at wvwfoundation.com. Thank you for your support as we try to help people around the world understand the times through the lens of a Christian worldview.
Take this opportunity to express my personal regret excuse me, for the violence in Kisur involving Blackwater employees in 2007. The United States is determined to hold accountable anyone who commits crimes against the Iraqi people. While we fully respect the independence and integrity of the U.S. judicial system, we were disappointed by the judge's decision to dismiss the indictment, which was based on the way in which some evidence had been acquired. A dismissal, I want to make clear, is not an acquittal. And today, I'm announcing that the United States government will appeal this decision. Our Justice Department will file that appeal from the judge's decision next week.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. My pleasure.
Thank God you.
Welcome back to the Rob Maness Show. It's Whistleblower Wednesday. We're on Worldview Tube and X Spaces simulcast live with retired U.S. Navy Chief Eddie Gallagher and the director of the Pipehitter Foundation. We're talking about the case of the young U.S. Navy sailor Harrison Tace, who's facing a court-martial potentially in August or September. And Chief, that clip there, I wanted to show that because your case that led to the creation of what you guys do at the Pipehitter Foundation, that was in 2010. I was a wing commander then, and we were expressing our concerns to our chain of command above us about our people being charged with war crimes in civilian courts, whether it be international or here in the American judicial system. Because, you know, when you're deployed, when I was deployed, we're taking combat action, we're attacking targets, or whether they're assigned or targets of opportunity to meet the objectives. We're doing that under the auspices, number one, of the Uniform Code of Military Justice, international laws of war, but under the lawful orders of the Commander-in-Chief, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, all the way down the line. And we didn't see, as senior commanders in the field, I was a wing commander at the time, that was the appropriate thing to open our men and women up to potentially being charged like that, because it would lead to unnecessary war crime charges even under the UCMJ.
Correct.
And charges that shouldn't occur, which is what happened to you, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, my case was definitely more political than anything. The fact that they still to this day will say that I was charged with war crime for taking a picture with a dead terrorist, which is not a war crime. They just made it one during my case. But for the video you just played about the Blackwater guys, the Blackwater guys do not fall under the UCMJ. They are contractors. So yes, if they are in trouble, they're not really covered under the Uniform Code of Military Justice. But what you just saw with the vice president then is probably the highest form of unlawful command influence you can see. For him to come in and say, nope, we are going to go try this case again because this is not the outcome that we wanted, when in fact all of those men were innocent. And we helped actually the Blackwater four that were pardoned by Trump before Trump left office. Our foundation stepped in and provided money to each and every one of them and their families to get back on their feet, because they still owed a heap of legal bills and everything from the nightmare that they went through during that time. But that whole thing was a political stunt as well. And those guys definitely were one of the first to really get, screwed over during the GWOT. And really, I think it brought to the forefront into the media just how political that war has gotten at that point. And the men and women that are raising their right hand to go out there and give their lives for it are paying the cost.
Yeah, and thanks for clarifying that for me. But that's exactly right. We were concerned that even though these guys were civilians at the time, the floodgates were going to be opened, and crap flows downhill, obviously, and then the innocent people, men and women that are conducting operations, are at the bottom of the damn hill, quite honestly, and quite often. And, it's just very concerning that politics has come into play. And I wanted to ask you, we mentioned it briefly in the last segment, I don't think politics appears to be in play in the Harrison Tace case, based on what you told me and what I read. But do you see, or are you concerned about this whole politicization of our entire legal system? And that could, it did in your case, I believe, in your case, there was some politics at play inside the UCMJ system when they came at you. But do you see it as getting worse or better? My opinion, things are much worse than they were 5 years ago when you were going through this process.
Oh, I mean, for sure, they have gotten a lot worse. I mean, the fact that they can take a prior president of the United States and prosecute him the way they just did in front of the whole country and act like everything they did was above board is insane. And the fact that they're doing it right in front of our face now. I think before they tried to hide it a little bit. They would do things behind the scenes, much like the prosecutor who was trying to spy on my legal team and on the media, and among the other things he got caught doing. I mean, that was him trying to sneak around and try to do the whole win at all costs thing. But now it's just open game. It's like, yep, this is what we will do. And I think the left has set a precedent that I don't think we're going to be able to walk back from, because that it was just done, and who's not to say they're not going to do it down the road to other individuals now, because they're getting away with it. So yeah, I think we're at a point now where our justice system being weaponized should scare everybody.
Yeah, absolutely should. One of the things the foundation does is try to protect the individuals that you're supporting's constitutional rights. In Harrison's case, has there been evidence that his constitutional rights are being violated at all? And what are some of the other cases where you guys have had to take that on, and what were you able to do to reinstate those rights or get them to back off?
So with Harrison Tace's case, like we talked about before, I really don't think there's a political agenda behind this. I think it's just pure incompetence. But yes, his constitutional rights are being violated. Just the fact that the assailant who attacked him is able to roam free around where Harrison Tace is being held. That right there, I mean, where's the protection on that? And, I think, under the UCMJ especially, you don't have the constitutional rights that you think, because the UCMJ is its own ecosystem. And what we learned is the only rights that you have when you are put into that position are the rights that you can afford. And just to give it an example, when I was being first charged, I had a group of lawyers who were all prior JAGs, who were all part of the system, who were all buddy-buddy with the prosecutor and everybody else that was involved in my case. And they would not stand up and do the right thing, because each time they're like, well, this is just the way the system is. Even when things were plain as day, that were like, hey, what they're doing is wrong. They're like, well, there's nothing that can be done. It wasn't until I was able to afford a very good lawyer who was Tim Parlatore, who came in and started calling them out on all the wrongdoings that were going on, that we were able to start moving forward in my case. And that is the plain truth right there. The only rights that you have are the ones that you can afford. And unfortunately, for the people that sign up for either the military, law enforcement, or first responders, we don't do it for the money. We do it because we want to protect this country, or protect our community, or help others. We're not doing it for a big paycheck. And because of that, we cannot afford the correct legal representation that we should be getting. That is why we, at the Pipe Hitter Foundation, we raise money to make sure that these individuals are able to be represented properly by the right legal representation. And, in other cases, as far as, we've helped out a lot of law enforcement. And so we just had, I think it was Ben Darby, not too long ago, was actually released from prison finally. And they knew the whole time that his case was complete BS. And he was just another victim of the defund the police movement. All his stuff happened right after the George Floyd incident. But just to give the listeners a little preview of what these individuals go through, they told him, they're like, we will release you from prison, but you will still have to plead guilty to something. And it's either you plead guilty to something small and we will let you out to go back to your wife, or we'll just keep you in here for another 10 years. So these are the decisions that these individuals are given a lot of the times. And, I don't blame them half the time for saying, okay, I'll take the small charge just so I can get out of it. So, whoever is charging them, whether it's the civilian courts or the UCMJ, they will try and get their pound of flesh out of you no matter what. So, I mean, that right there is a violation of your constitutional rights as well.
Yeah, it sure is. I've had Officer Darby's wife on this show twice, so I'm pretty familiar with the case. And I think it was the same case. I read a letter on your site from the state attorney general. Is that correct?
Yep.
Where he pled guilty to manslaughter, I think it was. And that is very unfortunate, because when I saw the facts of that case, he wasn't guilty of anything except for doing a good job at saving his fellow officer's life, potentially.
Correct.
Quite honestly. But I'm glad to see that he's out of prison now, and the family's back together, and I appreciate you guys supporting them for sure. When we look at a case like Harrison's, what's the timeline look like there? I mean, I think the incident happened in January of this year, and then he's not going to go to trial until August. Do you guys, as you're helping the family through this process, are the attorneys constantly working on this, or are they, it's just another client in their process, or how does that work? And do you guys help facilitate that?
Yeah, so for Harrison, obviously we have Jay Sullivan is his representation. Jay is a good friend of the foundation's. He is one of the vetted lawyers on our list. He has represented multiple individuals in the military. when they are facing the UCMJ. And I mean, he knows the ins and outs, and he actually cares about each client that he represents. So yeah, Jay is definitely talking to them daily, if not every other day, waiting for updates from the Navy. So basically right now, I think the game plan is to keep putting pressure on the Navy to hopefully to get them drop these asinine charges and let Harrison go. And, you know, we're going to keep putting that pressure on until those decisions are made. But if not, then yes, Jay will go to court-martial with Harrison and defend him. And I can tell you that Jay is an excellent lawyer, and I predict a positive outcome.
Well, that's good news to hear, you know, because when you get a young person like that, they really don't know their own system they're involved in and understand the ins and outs. So to hear that there's good attorneys that you guys have access to help these folks out is absolutely fantastic. Well, Chief, when we come back from this break, I want to use this last segment to talk about accountability. I'll show a little clip about a certain secretary that was held accountable after your case by President Trump. And I want to get your thoughts on what might be able to be done from a legislative perspective, because I know you guys are working, doing legislative stuff up on Capitol Hill. We'll be right back with Chief Eddie Gallagher, the director of Pipehitter Foundation. You can donate to them at pipehitterfoundation.org. They're raising funds right now for Harrison Tace. We need them, so go help out. We'll be right back on the Rob Maness Show at Worldview 2.
I'm excited to announce we're having a huge MyPillow spring sale, and here's a few examples. Buy one of our MyPillow 2.0s, you get another MyPillow 2.0 absolutely free. Made with cooling technology, the best pillow ever just got even better. And this just in, 9 brand new colors and styles of our Percale bed sheets. They're made with the finest long staple cotton, and now you can save 50% or more. That's as low as $24.98. And for the first time this year, I'm bringing you our My Slippers and Sandals for as low as $25 a pair. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to get your MyPillow 2.0s. Buy one, get one free. Percale sheets as low as $24.98. My Slippers and Sandals as low as $25 a pair. And for a limited time, when you order $75 or more, your entire order ships absolutely free.
Word just in from the Pentagon, Defense Secretary Mark Esper has asked for the resignation of his naval secretary. Richard Spencer fired over his handling of the case involving Navy SEAL Eddie Gallagher, who was accused then acquitted of war crimes. The president restored Gallagher's rank, but he is allowing the Navy to press forward with an internal review. Esper says he's lost confidence in Spencer due to what he calls Spencer's lack of candor in conversations with the White House.
Welcome back to the Rob Maness Show on Worldview Tube and X Spaces simulcast. And we're live today on Whistleblower Wednesday with that man right there, Chief Eddie Gallagher, former Navy SEAL, retired United States Navy, and the director of what I think is a really important organization, and his job is extremely important, the director of the Pipehitter Foundation. You can find them at pipehitterfoundation.org. They are taking care of men and women in the military and first responders that are unfairly charged, unfairly having their constitutional rights taken away, and they're providing resources to support them and their families and help them get attorneys so they can fight these kinds of things. And Chief, before we went to the break, I said I wanted to give you a chance to talk about accountability. That was pretty good accountability, but it wasn't over the trial. It was over his disagreement with President Trump, I think, on things they were trying to do to you after the trial. And I think it's important for folks to understand, I want to give you a chance to talk about it, that bad things can happen to you after a trial in the military, even when you're acquitted by the powers that are in place, right?
Oh, for sure. After my trial, when I was found innocent of all the charges except for one, the persecution didn't stop there. And what people need to realize is once the government, in this case the Navy, and the media all put their chips all in that you are guilty, even before your trial, and they've demonized you all the way up into the trial, and then you win, they're not going to take a step back and say, hey, you know what, we were wrong, ever. They will never hold themselves accountable or admit to mistakes. So instead, they will double and triple down on still trying to come after you, and which is what they did to me until the very last day when I was able to retire out of the Navy. The only reason I was able to retire out of the Navy with my rank that I had earned and all the benefits that I had earned was because President Trump at the time. He stepped in at least 2 or 3 times, and I think he literally in one tweet was like, leave this guy alone, get back to work, and just let him retire with everything he's earned. As far as the Secretary of the Navy at the time, he was involved in my case from near the very beginning when I was locked up, and my wife, who was out there putting out the truth, started her organic social media campaign of actually what was going on, and she got a lot of organizations to get behind us. The Secretary of the Navy, we had this on record, was emailing those certain companies or organizations telling them not to back me, that I was guilty. This is before I went to trial. So this is one of the many reasons that he was actually relieved, among others, with trying to go behind the president's back at the time to get things that he thought should be done. But that is the overall problem with the system, right? You have Secretary of the Navy, who's probably one of the highest involved, meddling in the case for political reasons, and that trickles down all the way down to a 04 being told like, hey, this man is guilty, you will treat him as such. Everybody is following orders in the military, and barely anybody questions those orders. So the system itself is broken. And when we were going through it, the one thing we were told constantly is just trust the system. Trust the system, it'll play out. But it is impossible to trust a system that is broken, especially from the very top. But yeah, that is the one accountable thing that did happen, was that when he got relieved, which I was pleased to see.
Yeah, and it's good to hear that that was a dam breaking, because I wasn't aware of that, because I thought it was just because he was trying to take your SEAL recognition, the SEAL badge and everything away from you after the trial. So that's actually good news. I wanted to ask you your thoughts on there's a lot of call for accountability in the Department of Defense right now, especially over the COVID vaccine mandate that turned out to be an illegal order, the Afghanistan withdrawal debacle, and I'm talking senior uniform leadership and all that. Do you think that we can, if we get Trump back in office, and I think he's going to get reelected, but who am I? But that we can find a pathway to hold some of these folks accountable to maybe adjust the system and get it back, headed back to track, because the system's way broken right now.
Yes, I do. I do think there's a way to get back on track, but it is cause for extreme measures. And this is just my opinion only. But I think if Trump does get back in office, he needs to get rid of every colonel and above. They need to go. I truly believe that the leadership we have in the military at this point are all tainted. They all came up during the Obama regime, that created a bunch of yes men. And I think that's where the leaders that we have now have yes men their way to the top, have not earned those positions, which we could plainly see during the Afghan withdrawal. My 14-year-old could have come up with a better plan in 5 minutes than what they executed. And the fact that they could sit back and say, well, this was a victory afterwards, after losing, 13 service members, that is a disgrace. It's, you're basically just spitting on all of us who served in the GWAT during that time. I truly think that it's a cancer that has been going on within the military, especially the officer corps. And I think the only way to get rid of a cancer is to completely cut it out, and by setting the example, saying we are not going to put up with any of this ladder climbing anymore, this career, everything is career based. How can I get to the next level? And these officers, at least from what I've seen from my time in, especially the latter half, was these officers will make decisions for the betterment of their career and not for the men and women below them. And I think that is a cancer that has spread, and it needs to be cut out, and the example needs to be made that we are not putting up with this, as well as the whole woke agenda and all the other garbage that's been trickled into the military in the past 4 years.
Yeah, it's remarkable when you look at the Afghanistan thing, and the only person that was an officer that was held accountable was old Lieutenant Colonel Stu Scheller, U.S. Marine, who had the audacity to come on video in uniform and say, "Did any of you guys throw your stars on the table on this?" I mean, that's where we're at. And thanks for answering that question. I know that's not the whole part of this particular show about Harrison's issue, but really it is. It is, because young Harrison needs officers and chief petty officers and senior NCOs that he can count on. You know, I'm on a anti-pride kick. I call them rainbow supremacists. And almost every show that I've done this month is trying to counter that kind of craziness. And you know, this week I showed an admiral who said he was made a good example of to follow, that said that he left his wife and kids to come out as gay and destroyed his marriage, and they're holding him up at he's speaking on the stage inside the Pentagon's courtyard there at Ground Zero, for goodness sake. The bodies from 9/11 were laid on that stage. I mean, that's how elevated they elevated this guy for a lack of moral character. It's crazy, man.
I mean, we're living in an upside down world, and you know, they wonder why recruitment numbers are so low in the military right now. It's because they have been focusing on the 1% for so long. Those are the weak, the people that are victims, the people who have a victim mentality. They have been focusing on them and trying to raise them up, and in doing so, they've lost the other 99%. And it's an unfortunate byproduct, but I do think, you know, there is a way back. We need a strong leader in our office, and we need strong leaders in our military who aren't going to put up with this crazy agenda anymore. You know, the fact that they're holding these people up on a pedestal, and I didn't even see what you were just talking about, but it doesn't surprise me. A man that leaves his wife and kids, I mean, right there that's shameful enough, but to come out as, no, I'm gay, and then they're going to hold this guy up as a hero. I mean, who are you inspiring doing that? What kids are you inspiring to join the military by doing that? Well, it's only a certain demographic, and it's a very small demographic. So the fact that they're constantly trying to figure out about their recruitment numbers and why recruitment is so low, you know, and they blame it on, oh, we're not keeping up with social media or because of this or that. It's them. They're the ones they should be looking at and like, I think it's us and the decisions that we're making, and maybe we need to change.
Yep, they need to look in the mirror. We've been saying it. And for President Trump, if you ever see the end of this show, sir, you can pull people out of retirement and give them these jobs. And there are lots of great Americans with the right warrior ethos that could do this job and get us back on track. Chief, thank you so much for joining me today, and thank you so much for supporting men like Harrison Tace in this case. And I'll put it out there again, pipehitterfoundation.org. Is there any other place that folks should go to check you guys out?
Yeah, we have the Pipe Hitter Foundation on Instagram. You can check that out. Check my page out, the Eddie Gallagher at .com, and also on Instagram. We're constantly putting out updates from Pipe Hitter Foundation. And then you put it out yourself, pipehitterfoundation.org. Go on there. You can see everybody that we're supporting, and you can choose to donate to each individual if you need be, or if you want to just donate to the Pipe Hitter Foundation in general. And like I said before, each dollar that you donate is going to a worthy cause, because the only rights that these individuals have are the ones that they can afford. So it is going directly to their legal team or to their families as they're going through these stressful times.
Absolutely, man. Well, you and your family are in our prayers, and thank them all and your team for me personally. And keep up the good fight, sir. Hope to see you out and about. And I'll be weighing in with my support whenever I can. And tomorrow's Truth Thursday. We'll be right here on Worldview Tube with Truth Thursday. And then Monday is More War Monday. We'll have a direct report from the ground in Israel about the conflict going on there. I'm Rob Maness. I'll see you then.